Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and hello everyone. Today we are going to present our topic on Marxism. Ever heard the word Marxism? It's actually a theory named after one of its founders, the benevolent Karl Marx. Marx was a regular university student sometime in the early 18th century, when during that time it was at the peak of the Industrial Revolution. There were many workers, companies, and much more, and there were visible class struggles among these people. Looking into this situation, Karl Marx was also affected, which is why he joins one of the several band organizations back then, such as the Young Hegelians, which were comprised of students that were educated and influenced by the ideas of Hegel, one of Germany's finest philosophers, about class struggles. Sometime later in 1848, he, along with his associate, Friedrich Engels, formulated a new revolutionary idea, known today as Marxism, the progenitor of today's communism, which suggests that capitalism and its class struggles are the ills of the world and should be replaced with socialism and communism. Carry on to the next chapter. Let's look a little bit into the meaning behind these theories.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Nushahira and today I'm going to talk about definition and the purpose of Marxism. Marxism is a theory by Karl Marx that talks about politics, society and the economy. It mainly criticizes capitalism, which is the system where the rich own businesses and make profits while workers do most of the work but get paid less. So the main purpose of Marxism is to create a fair and equal society by ending this exploitation and inequality. It wants to remove class divisions between the rich and the poor and replace capitalism with a classless system where everyone shares resources and wealth equally. In global politics, Marxism also says that rich countries take advantage of poorer ones through things like imperialism and control. So Marxism teaches us that money, class, and power shape the world and it aims to make things equal and fair for everyone.
Hi, I'm Nonabila Alia and I'll be continuing for the main factor of Marxism theory. So for the first main factor is class struggle, where the primary division isn't country versus country but bourgeoisie versus proletariat. In the international relation area, this plays out as a struggle between core states and peripheral states. Capitalism creates a global division of labor where the wealthy ruling class in the core exploits the workers and resources in the peripheral states. So for the second factor is role of capitalism, where Marxists see capitalism as the engine of all international politics. States and international bodies are neutral. They are tools that serve the interest of the capitalist class. Capitalism must constantly expand to survive in seeking new markets, new materials, and new opportunities for profit. This inherent need for expansion that leads directly to imperialism, which called the highest stage of capitalism. So for the last factor, we have economic determinism, where the economic base in material conditions that will determine the superstructure in politics, law, and foreign policy. The state's actions are not driven by abstract in national interest, but by the material needs of its dominant economic class.
Hi, I am Sharif Azim, and I'll be covering the case study of Marxism. For my part, I'll be explaining how Marxism works in real life and how it has influenced the international relations using the Cold War as a major example. Now for real life case study. The Cold War, which lasted from 1947 and 1991, was one of the clearest expressions how Marxism shaped global politics. After World War II, the Soviet Union began to apply Marxist principles by opposing the capitalist nations, especially the United States. Marxism viewed capitalism as an unfair system that exploits the working class and only benefit the rich. Because of this belief, the Soviet Union aimed to spread socialism and communist movement around the world by supporting revolutions and leftist government in countries like China, Vietnam, and Cuba. At the same time, the United States tried to stop the spread by policy of containment, which led to decades of rivalry, propaganda, and indirect conflicts. The ideology divide turned the world into two opposing systems, the capitalist West and the communist East. Conflicts wasn't just about military power, it was a clash between two different ways of viewing society and economy. Now, how can Marxism influence international relations? Marxism's influence on international relations was enormous. It caused a deep global split between capitalist and communist states, shaping nearly every diplomatic and political decision during the period. This division resulted in the creation of two alliances, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which is known as NATO, led by the US, and the Warsaw Pact, led by the Soviet Union. Both sides began building military strength and forming alliances with smaller nations, which led to proxy wars such as Korean Wars and the Vietnam War. Beyond the fighting, this rivalry affected global trade, diplomacy, and security. Countries often had to pick sides, and neutral states were pressured politically or economically. As a result, the Cold War defined the structure of international relations for almost half a century, all stemming from the ideological conflict rooted in Marxism versus capitalism. What lesson we can learn from this is that we can learn that ideological and economic inequality can disrupt the international relations. The Cold War showed that when one system tries to dominate or exploit another, it weakens the trust and cooperation between nations. Marxism reminds us of the importance of economic fairness, ensuring that a single country or gains power at the expense of others. Even today, the modern world issues like global inequality, resource control, and economic dependency still echo Marxism ideas about class and exploitation. Therefore, the lesson we can take from Marxism impact is that achieving balance, fairness, and equality is very essential for maintaining peace and stability in international relations. So for my conclusion, Marxism didn't just shape one country, it shaped how nations interact for decades, reminding us that economic and ideological systems can greatly influence world peace and cooperation.
To sum it up, Marxism really helps us see how power and money shape the world we live in. It reminds us that behind every political or international decision, there's usually an economic reason, someone gaining more profit or control. During the Cold War, we saw this clearly. It wasn't just a fight between two superpowers, but between two completely different systems, which is capitalism and communism. The United States wanted to protect the capitalist system, while the Soviet Union tried to spread socialism. This clash of ideologies divided the world, created alliances like NATO and the Warsaw Pact, and even caused wars like in Korea and Vietnam. From this, we can learn that inequality, whether between classes or countries, can easily lead to conflict. When one side tries to dominate or exploit another, peace and trust become harder to maintain. Even today, many global issues like poverty, unfair trade, and resource control still reflect what Marxism talked about.
the struggle between the powerful and the powerless. So, the main takeaway is that for the world to be more peaceful and stable, we need fairness and equality, not just within countries, but between them too. Marxism reminds us that when everyone gets a fair share, cooperation becomes possible, and that's how we move closer to real global peace. That's all from us. Thank you.